Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Uh, Today I am going to discuss with a very important uh, topic of character building of students. We will discuss what is character, how we can build the character of a student, what are the needs, and what's the essence of character building. Actually, character building of students is a collaboration between the parents and teacher. The character building begins in our infancy and continues until death. It's a saying by Eleanor Roosevelt. So it's mean that soon after the birth, the character building starts and it will continue in the school, college, and the universities. Now, what is the goal of true education? Before going to discuss about the character building, so I'm going to ask, what is the goal of true education? Is this only for the degrees, or it also involves some other things like character building or something? So, about the goal of true education, I can summarize by the sayings of the Martin Luther King Jr. He said, intelligence plus character, that is the goal of true education. So, actually, if there is should be a character building along with the education. It is the true role of the education, except then providing only the degrees. So, what is character? The word character derives from the Greek word kerasso, which means I engrave. So, character is something that is etched into us by the experiences that we have as we go through our life. So character building experiences takes us out of our comfort zones and forces us to dig deep into the new resources within ourselves. So it is every good thing. For every good thing, you have to come out of your comfort zone. The same also applies for your character building. Character building means a good character. So what is character? How you can define, or how we can define uh, the character? What is the meaning of the character? So character is defined in the dictionaries as the sum total of the mental and moral qualities distinctive to an individual. It is what makes one different. So, however, when we mention character, we usually mean good character, thereby clearly refer to certain desirable moral qualities and virtues such as truthfulness, honesty, responsibility, empathy, compassion, and so on, so on. So, in the previous slide, I mentioned that when we talk about character, it means we are talking about something very positive. So, character, how you can define? So, in dictionaries, defined as a sum total of the mental and moral qualities distinctive to an individual. So, this the qualities which makes one different from the other individual. So, what constitutes the character? Having character, as I said, having character means that you can be trusted to be honest, responsible, and trustworthy. So, what is the constituents of character? Character consists of three basic ideas. So, it means that basically, uh, character constitutes of, we can say that characters constitutes on three basic ideas: core, consistency, and cost. Now, what is core? It pertains to what one is inwardly. So it is the very essence of one's own being. This quality of character often becomes evident when one is under stress and pressure. Another is the consistency. What is consistency? Consistency means one strives always to do what is right. Somebody called this attitude habit of the heart, or so it's mean like it's more closely related to integrity of personal integrity. The third one is the cost. It relates to what one is willing to sacrifice, or it is a dedication to live by his convictions. So there are some quotes related to these three core: consistency, a cost. So the first one: nearly all men can stand adversity, but if you want to test a man's character, give him power. It's by Abraham Lincoln. Another saying is by Booker T. Washington. Character is power. And third one, it has said that a man's character is his fate. So what is character building? So now we discussed about the definition of characters, constituent of characters, what is character. Now the how you can build the character, how you can define the character building. Character building is actually experiences which teach you some of life's lessons like keep your words, pay attention, don't turn with the sharp objects. Many character building experiences hurt, but not many. Most of the character building experiences hurt and may contain a significant emotional experience. With a little good luck, you will live through them and be a better person. So it means you need to have hard work. You have to keep a big heart and keep on doing, keep learning the good lessons and keep improving yourself so you can be a better person. So it's a long battle and it's a continuous journey. We keep on improving ourselves throughout our life. So character building for children is not a course offered in schools, sadly. So it's unfortunate that unfortunately, so character building is not taught as a course in school, college, but I think it should be. Here are suggestions for character building ideas. So there are some suggestions. By acting, acting upon those suggestions, we can build the characters of our students. So it means if you build a character, you build a success. So actually having a good character, if you have developed or build a good character, it means you are successful. So building a good character is like you're building a success. So as in the first slide, we talked that building a character is a collaborative work between the teachers and the parents. So the first we will start from the teachers, the tips for the teachers, how teachers can take a part and play a role in improving or building a character. So there is a Latin proverb: by learning you will teach, and by teaching you will learn. So there's the first step, importance of knowing the students. The first tip for the teacher, the importance of knowing your students. So you should know your students at all levels. The better we know our students and the more they know and trust that we know them, the more invested they become in their learnings. So if you know your students, you can better handle them by if you can understand them, you can know them, you can teach them accordingly to their needs, their calibers, their attitudes. So they can, if you know more them, then there will be a bond of trust will develop between your students and the teachers. So the teacher will be more invested in their learnings. Another step for the teacher is positive discourse with your students. Which means think about what you will say to the difficult students in your classroom. So there are different kind of students. Some are easy, some are tough students, some are some mediocre. So you don't need to pay more attention, although you need to pay attention to every students, but like um, I'm talking about the very easygoing students, but there are certain type of students which are difficult students, you know. So it means, are you consistently bombarding them with the request to do something or telling them to stop doing what they are doing? No one likes being badgered and pestered, and your students are no the exceptions. So, mm, mm, so it means your students are not the exceptions; they are the same human beings. So instead, you should find a time or place when you can have a positive discussion with the problem students. Giving students meaningful feedback. So about the feedback, Bill Gates said we all need people who give us feedback. That's how we improve. So always we can improve by the feedbacks. Feedback occurs when a student gives an input. Input can be like an assignment's answer or a test, and it doesn't stop there. So there are number of ways. Feedback isn't linear. It's a part of a chain of cause and effect that form a loop. When students give you input, you give a reaction or feedback. So to state it like this, feedback can be information or statement of opinion about the student's input that can tell you students where it's successful and where it needs improvement. So the praise is the one of the simplest and most powerful tool to engage and motivate your students. When used effectively, praise can turn around behavior challenges and improve students' attitude about learning. Students who learn and think differently often receive negative feedback as a result of their struggle. That makes meaningful and appropriate praise even more important. So keep praising your students. The most important, you should create a positive climate in your classroom with the students. Be sure to allow time for your students to link the concepts and skills they are learning to their own experiences. Build, you should build a fun into the things you do in your classroom. In other words, plan activities that create a sense of community so that your students have an opportunity to see the connections between what they already know and the new things they are learning, as well as have the time to enjoy being with you and other students. So the it is the very important. Some students are difficult, so your relationship with the difficult students is also very important. Difficult students requires more energy on your part, so you should have to spend more energy to reach your like moral duty and to pay more energy on those difficult students. For example, you may need to spend time with them individually to get to know them better, to understand their interest and what motivates them. This will not only allow you to tailor your instructions to their interest and motivation, but the time spent will also allow them to develop trust in you. That is how you can trust of those students, and that students will be more easy to handle and they will keep investing their time and efforts in their class. Respectful and sensitive interactions. So educators or teachers and students' well-being are promoted when sensitive, trusting, and meaningful relationships are nurtured. Respectful, responsive interactions support belonging, inclusion, and confidence, which build a strong foundation for relationships. The sense of any relationship is respectful and sensitive interactions, not only with the students, but the every relationship needs respectful and sensitive interactions. Positive relationships encourage students' motivation and engagement in learning. Older students need to feel that their teachers respect their opinion and trust just as much as younger students do. So your positive attitudes will encourage students and will motivate them, and they will keep engaging in learning. So your positive relationship is vital. However, to enhance the results of the sorry, however, to enhance the results of students' learning activity as the application of a class, management at least two requirements should be fulfilled, namely do's and don'ts. So you should do what you should do. You should make an effort to get to know each student in your classroom. Always call them by their names and strive to understand what they need to succeed in school. Make an effort to spend time individually with each student, especially those who are difficult or shy. This will help you create a more positive relationship with them. But be aware of the explicit and implicit messages you are giving to your students. Be careful to show your students that you want them to do well in school through both action and words. Create positive climate in your classroom by focusing not only on improving your relationship with your students but also enhancing the relationship among your students. Now, don'ts means you should not do these things in your classroom with the students. Don't assume that being kind and respectful to students is enough to bolster their achievement. Ideal classrooms have more than a single goal. In ideal classrooms, teachers hold their students to appropriately high standards of academic performance and offer students an opportunity for an emotional connection to their teachers, their fellow students, and schools. Don't give up too quickly on your efforts to develop positive relationship with difficult students. These students will benefit from a good teacher-student relationship as much or more than they're easier to get along with other students or their peers. Thirdly, don't assume that respectful and sensitive interactions are only important to elementary school students. Middle and high school students benefit from such relationship as well. The fourth one, don't assume that relationships are inconsequential. Some research suggests that preschool children who have a lot of conflict with their teachers show increases in stress hormones when they interact with these teachers. Tip for parents. There is the very famous sayings of Napoleon Bonaparte: give me good mothers, I shall give you a good nation. In home, parents have supposed to be more dutiful about their children, especially mother. Here are some tips for parents in handling their children attitude. So there are some tips that will help their parents to handle their children's attitude. Number one, you should be get connected early. Discipline discipline is grounded on a healthy relationship between parents and child. To know how to discipline your child, you must first know your child. This kind of knowledge resides deep in parents' mind. Do you know your child? So you should know your child. These are three most useful words in discipline. You should study your child. You should study the brain of your child. So know your child's needs and capabilities at various ages. Your discipline techniques will be different at each stage because your child's need a change. A temper tantrum in a 2-year old calls for different response than it does in an 8-year old boy or girl. No age appropriate behaviors. Help the child to respect authority. Teaching kids to respect authority is a very important. Parents take charge of your children. Parents should take charge of your children. That's basic in discipline. But being a trusted authority in your child's life does not automatically comes with the job of being a parent. So you can't force someone to behave in a certain way. So set limits, but you have to set limits, provide structure, establish rules, but at the same time create conditions that make the rule easier to follow. Children needs boundaries. Expect obedience. Your child will be as obedient as you expect, or as defiant as you allow. When we ask parents of obedient kids why their children obey, they all answer because we expect them to. Simple as this sounds, many parents let this basic fact of discipline slip away. Another is model discipline. A model is an example your child imitates. The mind of a growing child is sponge soaking up life's experience. So more disciplines the parent or teacher is, the more they will follow. The parents are the first role model of their children. So the parent should be disciplines should be a role model of discipline for their child because the child will follow their parents. Nurture your child's self-confidence. It's very important. A growing person with a positive self-image is easier to discipline. She or he thinks of herself or himself as a worthwhile person, and so he or she behaves in a worthwhile way. So now, shape your children's behavior. A wise parent is like a gardener who works with what he has in his garden and also decides what he wants to add. He realizes he cannot control the characteristics of the flowers when they bloom. Raise kids who care. Another, the ninth point is raise kids who care. Being a moral child includes being responsible, developing a conscience, and being sensitive towards the needs and rights of others. So it's a very important. You should teach your children how to be a compassionate, talk and listen. It's also very, don't ignore your children. You should communicate with your child so he or she doesn't become parent deaf. The best authority figures specialize in communication with children, oftentimes rephrasing the same directive in a more child considered way makes the difference in whether a child obeys or defies you. Wise disciplinarians know how to open up a closed off child and consider the golden rule. Talk to your children respectfully. These are the some tips. By adopting these tips, both by the teachers and parent, we can develop a character of our students.